Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today's Thursday, October 30th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside today is 89.6 degrees, with a low of 57.5 degrees, so expect a warm day with cooler evenings ahead. Coming up, we'll explore Israel's announcement of a restored ceasefire in Gaza, even after airstrikes that claimed over 100 lives, and delve into the reasons behind nearly 500,000 young people in California being disconnected from both school and jobs. Plus, other key stories on global tensions, local impacts, and more. All this and more on Alex's News. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. We begin today with a sobering update on the fragile ceasefire in Gaza, now just 20 days old since it took effect on October 10th. Last night's deadly Israeli airstrikes have cast a long shadow over the truce, killing over 100 Palestinians. Joining me to unpack this is our international correspondent Ethan, who has been following the twists and turns of this conflict.
Thanks, Grace. You're right. The strikes on October 29th marked the bloodiest night since the ceasefire began, with the Palestinian Health Ministry reporting at least 104 deaths, including 46 children, and a combined 20 to 66 women and children. According to reporting from PBS NewsHour via an Associated Press dispatch, these attacks targeted dozens of Hamas sites like observation posts, weapons depots, mortar positions, tunnels, and even senior militants. Israel announced afterward that the ceasefire is back on track, or renewed in enforcement, vowing to uphold it while responding firmly to violations. They coordinated with the United States, but Palestinians call it a blatant escalation that torpedoes the peace boat.
That's devastating, Ethan. Can you explain what sparked these strikes? I know there are accusations flying from both sides.
Absolutely, Grace. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered them in retaliation for two alleged Hamas violations. First, the fatal shooting of Israeli soldier Master Sergeant Yonah Ephraim Feldbaum, a 37-year-old reservist with dual United States and Israeli citizenship, on October 28th in Rafah, Gaza's southernmost city. An anonymous Israeli military official told PBS NewsHour that Feldbaum was killed by enemy fire targeting his vehicle during an operation to destroy Hamas tunnels and infrastructure. Rafah is nearly demolished from prior campaigns, as satellite imagery shows. Second, Hamas's handling of hostage remains, which Israel sees as a clear breach. Netanyahu labeled the partial handover of Ofer Tzarfati's body, already recovered by Israel in late 2023, as a violation of the prompt return requirement. Israel's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Oren Marmerstein blamed the high civilian toll on Hamas using human shields in places like Deir al-Balah, Khan Yunis, and Rafah.
And Hamas's response to all this?
Hamas denies any role in Feldbaum's death or staging remains, Grace. Senior negotiator Khalil al-Hayya said widespread destruction has altered Gaza's terrain, killing those who buried bodies and obscuring locations for the remaining 13 hostage remains. They accuse Israel of obstructing Red Cross and Palestinian search teams in eastern Gaza City and using United States political cover for force. Al Jazeera's live updates, authored by Lyndall Rowlands and others, report over 100 deaths, including at least 46 children, in scenes of unbelievable horror. Eyewitnesses described unprovoked bombings on civilians, with one survivor, Haneen Menter, losing her sister and nephews, saying children burned while asleep. Another, Amna Karnawi, asked, quote, "What kind of a ceasefire is this?" end quote, as families cleared craters and held funeral prayers amid bloodied shrouds at dawn.
The humanitarian impact sounds overwhelming. Walk us through the injuries and hospital scenes.
It is, Grace. 253 injuries, mostly women and children, swamped Gaza's medical facilities. PBS NewsHour detailed Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, receiving 21 bodies, 7 women, and 6 children, treating 45 critically, including 20 children, with director Mohammed Abu Selmia describing chaotic ambulances and cries. Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah had at least 10 bodies, 3 women and 6 children. Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis handled 20 after 5 strikes, 13 children and 2 women among them. Al-Auda Hospital got 30 bodies, including 14 children. Gaza's civil defense spokesperson, Mahmoud Basal, called it a flagrant violation hitting densely populated camps. A photo by Abdel Karim Hanna in a 2 News AP Wire story showed displaced Palestinians inspecting damage at a Deir al-Balah tent camp. Survivors like Yahya Eid buried his brother and nephews after tent strikes, and Najwa Arian credited neighbors for saving her kids from a collapsed building. As one put it to 2 News, quote, "We survived the war, we may not survive the ceasefire," end quote. It's like the truce is on life support.
Let's talk about the ceasefire terms themselves. What does this agreement actually require?
The ceasefire stems from the United States brokered 20-point plan, or Trump Declaration for Enduring Peace and Prosperity, approved by Israel's Security Cabinet on October 9th and effective the 10th. It calls for full suspension of military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, with aerial surveillance halted for 72 hours over withdrawn IDF areas. Hamas must release all living hostages and deceased remains within 72 hours of IDF withdrawal, sharing info via an ICRC mediator for dignified exhumation, no public ceremonies or media. In exchange, Israel releases Palestinian prisoners, initially 250 security ones, and over 1,700 Gazans by October 13th, when Hamas freed 20 living hostages and 4 deceased. It includes 15 Palestinian bodies per Israeli hostage remains. Demilitarization destroys Hamas tunnels under international supervision post-hostage phase, with IDF not re-entering withdrawn areas. But ambiguities allow tunnel ops in Rafah, and Israel justifies strikes as responses, though mediators should review escalations per the Sharm one-pager document. This is the most serious test yet, mediated by the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, amid mutual breach accusations hindering hostage progress, disarmament, and Gaza's governance.
How are world leaders and organizations reacting to this escalation?
Mixed but mostly condemnatory, Grace. United States President Donald Trump, from Air Force One in Asia, defended the strikes as justified for Feldbaum's death, saying Israel should hit back and expressing confidence the ceasefire holds, dismissing Hamas as a very small part of peace and threatening termination if non-compliant. Vice President J.D. Vance called it skirmishes. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani expressed disappointment over a Palestinian violation, but noted efforts to sustain the truce. Egypt helps with body searches in Khan Yunis and controls Rafah crossing for aid. The ICRC condemned alleged staging as unacceptable, saying its team was unaware of prior placement and urging non-politicization of remains. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres strongly condemned civilian killings, with spokesperson Stefan Dujarric saying, "All undermining actions must stop." UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk called deaths appalling, urging Israel to uphold humanitarian law. Doctors Without Borders said violations perpetuate ongoing genocide, questioning if it's still a ceasefire. The European Union urged respect from all parties, though Vice President Teresa Ribera criticized excuses for strikes on social media. China, via China Daily, and reports from The Guardian and The Washington Post highlight de-escalation needs.
And the bigger picture, Ethan, how does this fit into the 2-year war?
It stems from Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, Grace. Israel's campaign has killed over 68,500 Palestinians per Gaza Health Ministry, reliable per UN agencies, though Israel disputes without alternatives. Only 13 hostage bodies remain, delaying disarmament, international forces, and governance. UN agencies rushed aid post-strikes, as PBS noted. Reports from the Times of Israel and the Jerusalem Post mention Israel hit a northern weapons site after the announcement, killing 2 more at Al-Shifa. Al Jazeera and The Hindu link it to failed United States plans, while Save the Children and MSF warn of child trauma. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio toured an oversight center in Israel. Mediators warn of potential Hamas attacks on Palestinians. Both sides vow compliance amid distrust, but the truce's survival hinges on resolving remains and tunnels. It's a powder keg, where one spark could reignite the fire.
A stark reminder of how precarious peace can be. Thanks for that thorough breakdown, Ethan. Welcome back to our morning broadcast. As story 2 of 2 today, we're diving into a pressing issue in our own backyard, California's youth disconnection crisis. Nearly 500,000 young people aged 16 to 24 are neither in school nor working, and it's hitting hardest among men, Black, and Latino communities. Joining me now from the studio to break this down is our education and policy reporter, Chloe. Chloe, this sounds like a real wake-up call for the Golden State. Can you paint the picture of just how big this problem is, based on the latest data?
Absolutely, Grace. According to the Public Policy Institute of California's October 2025 analysis, using 2024 American Community Survey data, about 11% of California's 16 to 24-year-olds, or roughly 500,000 individuals, are what experts call disconnected youth or opportunity youth. That's up from 10.3% pre-pandemic in 2019, and it peaked at 12.5% in 2021 before a slight dip. CalMatters reporting from October 29, 2025 headline, quote, and end quote. 500,000 young Californians aren't in school or work. Most are men, end quote, labels it a labor and mental health crisis. For context, disconnected youth means they're not enrolled in education and not employed, even if they're gig working or caregiving, which some surveys might miss.
Wow, those numbers are staggering, Chloe. And it's mostly young men affected? Tell us more about the demographics, especially the racial and gender breakdowns that make this so unequal.
Yes, Grace, it's a striking shift. PPIC's data shows young men now make up 53 to 54.7% of this group, about 286,000 in 2022 figures, flipping from decades ago when women were the majority. For 16 to 19-year-olds, it's even more pronounced with men at 58%. Racially, Black and Latino youth are overrepresented. Nearly 20% of Black 16 to 24-year-olds were disconnected in 2022, with Black males at the highest rate of 20%, making up 7.5% of the youngest disconnected group, despite being just 4.9% of all youth. Latinos account for 58% of the total, or 303,922 people, with a 13% rate, 1.28 times higher than non-Hispanics. Native American youth face rates up to 17% for older ages, while Asians have the lowest at 8 to 9%. LAist analyses confirm this ties into broader racial disparities in a state where people of color are the growing majority.
It's heartbreaking to hear that. How does this vary by age and region, Chloe? Is it worse in certain spots like Los Angeles or the Bay Area?
Age ramps it up, Grace. Rates start at 4.7% for 16 to 18-year-olds, but climb to 14.4% for 19 to 24-year-olds, who are nearly three-quarters of the total. Regionally, Los Angeles County had over 123,000 disconnected in 2023, an 11.3% rate, down from 12.9% in 2021, but still a hotspot amid housing woes. In the Bay Area, rates are easing from pandemic highs, but Santa Clara County has over 15,000 affected, and San Francisco's at 2 to 2.76% for younger teens, per 2023 ACS data. Sacramento County is seeing targeted efforts, as noted in the Sacramento Bee on October 29, 2025. Nationally, California's 11% matches the U.S. average, but places like New York City at 13% show it's not unique per measure of America.
What are the root causes here? I imagine the pandemic played a role, but is there more, like mental health or economic hurdles?
The pandemic accelerated it with enrollment drops and learning losses, but PPIC and CalMatters experts point to deeper issues. Mental health is huge, with an alarming rise in suicides among young men, as Governor Newsom called out in his July 30, 2025 executive order issued 92 days ago. Nearly 1 in 4 men under 30 report no close friends, a five-fold jump since 1990, especially Black males. Economic barriers include triple the unemployment for 20 to 24-year-olds versus younger teens, plus automation hitting male jobs and gig economy instability under Proposition 22. Education gaps hit boys hard, with lower college prep course completion and systemic factors like high incarceration for men. 96% of prisoners, disabilities, and caregiving inflate the numbers. It's like these kids are unplugged from opportunity, not just disconnected from their phones.
Pun intended, Chloe, and it lands. What about the long-term fallout and what the state is doing? Newsom's initiatives sound promising.
The implications are tough, Grace. Disconnected youth face lower lifetime earnings, poorer health, and higher criminal justice risks per PPIC and Measure of America. For California, it's underinvesting in its future majority of Black and Latino talent, potentially stalling the economy. On responses, Newsom's Executive Order N3125 directs mental health expansions and mentorship, integrating with $3 billion in career education since 2015. The September 16, 2025 California Men's Service Challenge, 44 days ago, aims to engage 10,000 mentors with nearly $5 million in grants, awards coming next month. The April 2025 Master Plan for Career Education pumps $100 million into pathways, and the $40 million California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship Grant tests job programs. Lessons from New York and Texas, like Youth Builds wage boosts, show holistic mentoring and culturally affirming boot camps could have rates.
That's a roadmap we need. Thanks for unpacking this crisis so thoroughly, Chloe. Viewers, stay connected to these stories shaping our state. Here are some other headlines. The Justice Department says it will plant eyes on the polls, dispatching federal election monitors to Passaic County, New Jersey, and 5 California counties: Los Angeles, Orange, Kern, Riverside, and Fresno on November 4th. The move follows GOP petitions citing irregularities in recent contests and a dispute over video surveillance for stored ballots in Passaic. DOJ frames the step as transparency, ballot security, and compliance. Critics, including California Governor Gavin Newsom, call it a chill wind at the ballot box. With New Jersey's governor's race heating up and California voters weighing Proposition 50 on redistricting, the stakes are more than county deep. Chip shot heard round the world. NVIDIA vaulted past the $5 trillion mark, closing in at roughly $5.06 trillion after shares rose 3.4% to about $207.85. That valuation leapfrogs the GDPs of economic heavyweights and tops tech titans Microsoft and Apple, crowning NVIDIA the market's monarch of silicon. Fueled by ravenous demand for AI GPUs powering everything from chatbots to supercomputers, orders from OpenAI, Meta, and Tesla keep the engine humming. Yet some analysts tap the brakes, warning of an AI bubble, suggesting this rocket could face gravity if expectations outpace execution. China is over the moon about the moon, reaffirming a 2030 deadline to land taikonauts on the lunar surface. As Beijing unveiled the Shenzhou 21 crew bound for Tiangong, officials touted smooth progress on the Long March 10, the Mengzhou cruise ship, the Lanyu lander, and next-gen spacesuits. Astronauts Zhang Lu, Wu Fei, and Zhang Hongzhang launch Friday with a quartet of mice to study weightlessness, call it squeak performance science. With an independent space station built after being barred from the ISS, China's countdown counters the U.S. Artemis ambitions, signaling a new space race where the finish line is made of regolith. In Tanzania, a vote turned volatile. After protests over alleged harassment and disqualification of challengers to President Samia Suluhu Hassan, authorities imposed a 6 p.m. curfew in Dar es Salaam, with the military on streets there and in Dodoma and Zanzibar. Demonstrators torched a bus and a gas station. Internet disruptions rippled nationwide. Opposition leaders cite imprisonment and candidate bans, and low turnout shadows legitimacy. Results are expected within a week, as the U.S. Embassy warns of countrywide protests, and Amnesty International decries an atmosphere of fear, an election night where the ballot box met a strong box, and a data dive that's making waves in the voter rolls. A newly disclosed agreement lets Homeland Security tap Social Security records to verify citizenship for a planned federal online voter registration system. ProPublica reports sparse safeguards as the SAVE database pulls in SSA data, raising red flags that naturalized and native-born citizens could be misidentified as non-citizens and purged. Framed as integrity by the Trump administration, the expansion tests the line between federal plumbing and state-run pipes. The League of Women Voters has filed a class action suit alleging Privacy Act violations, while state officials warn of conflicts ahead of the 2026 midterms. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.